more minute. So we will record this and put it up on the website probably tomorrow for those people who have to leave early or may not be able to join us this afternoon. So
I love the on video rate that we have going here. This is like 90%, video participants.
It is very good considering the more webinars we've sat on during this pandemic, it becomes less and less.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all miss each other. So nice to see everybody's faces, even if it's virtual.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to DACAC 2022. A lot like DACAC 2021 right now, but hopefully things will improve soon. I wanted to give a quick organizational update. We're still working on a topic for virtual brown bag lunch for February, and any suggestions are welcome. Just email me or at the end of the meeting, let me know if there's a topic you're interested in that we can get an expert or just have a roundtable discussion. And then our next general meeting will be the last Wednesday in February. That'd be the 23rd at 4 o'clock. It will likely be virtual, but we will let you know for sure, or it could be hybrid. I did want to let everybody know that the Salmon Center has invested in the OWL system to enable hybrid meetings. It's great. It's very simple to use. And so any of you that are doing your meetings at the Salmon Center, if you need to do a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual, it's really a great setup. So, and we don't charge anything extra at all for using OWL. You do need to give a few minutes to get it set up so that you can, be able to use it for your meeting, but it's very simple and straightforward. So we've been real happy so far. And anybody that's interested in more information on that, just get in touch with me. So the next thing on our agenda, we're going to have a member spotlight, and we have not done this before with Uptown Players. So I would like to ask Jeff to tell us all about Uptown Players. So we'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Joanna. I think a lot of people are familiar with Uptown Players, but if not, I'll do a kind of a quick overview, and visuals are always easier for me to see than just talking. So our mission is to present professional theater that meets a rising demand in the LGBTQ plus community for audiences to see their life experiences on stage. We offer diverse productions that challenge audiences artistically, that strengthen cultural bridges with the LGBTQ community, and create greater positive public awareness and acceptance through the performing arts. A little bit about our history. We were formed 20 years ago in 2001, and we produced at the Trinity River Arts Center, which is a 125-seat theater over on the Medical District area off 35. And we moved to the Kalita Humphreys Theater in January of 2010. We've now produced over the last 11 seasons, 60 productions in this historic venue, bringing 16,000 people through its doors each year now, and providing work to 200 local actors, musicians, designers, and technicians each year. We're the third largest employer of professional actors and stage managers with the Actors Equity Union in the city of Dallas. We are the city's only LGBT plus focused professional theater, and we're one of, if not the largest in the nation. We produce plays and musicals that represent the LGBTQ plus community's attitude, mindsets, and about their lives and current situation. We do provide an opportunity for the community to examine itself and to develop self-confidence, awareness, and pride. And we have season ticket holders and single ticket holders of all sexual orientations, gay, bi, straight, trans, all of the letters represented in the community that travel from as far as Oklahoma, Arkansas, and East Texas to see our productions. We've done a couple of world premieres recently and many throughout our years. The most recent, A Very Sordid Wedding, which was just this last September, and A Very Judy Christmas, based on the Judy Garland Christmas special that we did in 2019. We've also done 2 US premieres, the first productions to be in the United States from productions that were created over in Europe. Closer to Heaven in 2010, and Soho Cinders in 2014 were those US premieres. One of the regional premieres we did recently with Seth Rudetsky, the writer coming into town, was Disaster the Musical in 2019. Also, When Pigs Fly, which was our very first production in 2001, that we revived in this past summer using new costumes that have been designed by Bob Mackey. Also, La Cage aux Folles in 2017, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert in 2018 were a few of our big musicals. We're excited to be bringing back our first big musical since the pandemic this summer, which will be the musical Kinky Boots. And we'll be opening Torch Song now a couple of weeks later than originally planned, which we'll be announcing this week, and that production will run April 8th through the 17th now. Any questions? Great. I hope you all, if you haven't been to one of our shows, I hope you do come and check us out this season. We do have a great lineup. So with that, I will turn it back over to Joanna.
Thank you, Jeff. That was great, and always glad to know more about what everybody's doing. Our next thing on the agenda is to talk about the membership drive for the Texans for the Arts. And I'm going to ask Lily Weiss to tell everybody about what TFA is asking of Dallas. And so Lily, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. If I haven't seen you this year, Happy New Year, even though it's the last week in almost, it's the last week in January. I hope your start of the new year has been great. There are 6 of us in Dallas that are on the Texans for the Arts board. Chris Heinbaugh, Charles Santos, Terry Loftus, Joanna St. Angelo, and Augustine Arteaga. Is that everyone? And myself. I think that's all 6 of us. And what we're doing this year and making sure that we're not in the 13th hour when a legislative session is going to happen is to really push the support of Texans for the Arts. Many of you know this organization, but I really need to remind you that they are the advocacy organization for the state. They are the reason why Texas Commission on the Arts has stayed steady with their funding. They have not received a cut. And also how we got back the cultural district funding through Texas Commission on the Arts. There was a 2-year period where Texans for the Arts did not hire an advocate/lobbyist, and that was the year that we lost the original $5 million. When they were able to hire an advocate back in, not only did we get the $5 million for cultural districts, they doubled it. So it's $5 million a year. They are truly the reason also for advocating for the COVID-19 support, both at the federal level and at the state level. And they continue to do that with ARPA funds being available. They host a biennial advocacy day in Austin. Of course, lately we've done the advocacy day because of COVID. We've done it virtually and met with our representatives and truly other representatives in the state that are pro-arts. In fact, I think it was the representative from Flower Mound. When she spoke on behalf of the arts at the last session, it just so happened that the Sunday paper right before she spoke had the almost $96 million loss to Dallas Arts from the surveys that DACAC, TACA, and Dallas Arts District did. And it was on the front page. And what she did is she opened up the Dallas Morning News and said, this cannot happen. We need to support the arts. So I'm coming to you really with the fact that we have a responsibility. And being a member, memberships is all they have, honestly. They do write some grants, but the organization exists on memberships. In fact, the staff is not even full-time. Now they work the equivalent of full-time and more. But I am telling you, if we didn't have this organization in the state, we would not have the kind of support and funding that we have right now. So if you want information, you just go to Texans for the Arts and you can join right online. You can join as an organization, you can join as an individual. And what we've done, we're so committed that we've established, and Dallas tends to do that, rather than go as individual board members and try to get everyone to become members. We're actually working together as a team. The 6 of us are approaching groups as a whole. We want Dallas to be represented. And I will say this, we were able to get Visit Dallas, was one of the first convention and visitors bureaus to join Texans for the Arts. And the hoteliers in the state are also advocating. They work together. So as you can see, now more than ever, after and during COVID, we need Texans for the Arts. So please become a member at whatever level, whether it's an individual level or an organization level or both. Do you have any questions?
Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely, Chris.
Sure.
A couple things just to keep in mind. If any of you get or are hoping to get any kind of funding from Texas Commission on the Arts, one of the only reasons that organization is still here is because of Texans for the Arts. Every year, there are people, including some in our suburbs, who try to kill the Texas Commission on the Arts and defund it and sunset the whole thing. So any funding you get is because this organization has been there watching out for things like these, raising red flags, rallying the troops. There are cultural district grants, of course, but this literally is a very grassroots operation. Everybody rolls up their sleeve, and we actually now have 7 board members from Dallas: Augustine Ortega, Terry Loftus, Charles, Joanna, me, Lily, and Jennifer Scripps. So we've got 7 of us now.
Sorry, Jennifer, I left you off.
But it really
No
is an important organization. And if you are getting funding, even if you just join at the lowest level, $25, anything will help, and it will help keep this organization vibrant and keep it working. Part of what we're doing too is we're starting to lay the groundwork and with our lawmakers, and we'll send out a list shortly with emails and whatnot. But for instance, I asked DMA to reach out to some of these state lawmakers and say, hey, we have Van Gogh, please come. We'd love to have you as our guest. And so the more that we engage them, not just at budget time during, but year round, they start to become hopefully our friend. And even if they don't come, we get a lot of credit for asking them all the time. And so, we'll be reaching out and encouraging all of you to say, take a moment and invite your state lawmaker, just the way we do with our city council members. We invite them to our stuff. We should do the same thing with our state lawmakers. Because it's important that we keep that funding. And now that we have 2 more cultural districts, we'd love to raise that 10 million up to 15 or 20 for every 2-year budget. So anyway, those are some of the things that we've got ahead. But please, if you can, either your organization or yourself, take a moment and go online. It's texansforthearts.org and join. Thanks.
And there's just one more thing. There's 2 sides of Texans for the Arts. One is the advocacy side, the 501c4, and the other is the 501c3, which if you need deductions and you want to use it as a charitable deduction, you can do your membership through the 501c3, or you can do it straight through the advocacy way, the 501c4.
Thanks, Lily and Chris. TFA is the state equivalent of DACAC. And I would say the other, if you can join, I just saw Diana Pollock's note in the chat. If you can join as an individual and an organization, even better, but please do what you can. I would say the other great thing about TFA, it's not always just the funding for cultural districts and the Texas Commission on the Arts. There's other important issues that come up that are of concern to us as arts organizations and artists. And they give us a heads up before these things really can metastasize. Some things like the bathroom bills, for instance, TFA was on it immediately and working with the hotels and working with the convention and visitors bureaus in cities all over Texas, because that would have hurt everybody. And so there's things like that that they work on as well. So many good reasons to support them. It's a great organization. So we'd like to ask you all to support them in the same way that you do DACAC.
The other thing, which I forgot to mention, is TFA is very active in protecting the use of the hotel occupancy tax for the arts. Okay, and that's another thing that people try to chip away at. They all of a sudden will throw in road repairs and all of this. And so we have a very good, very strong relationship with the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association, work very closely with them to make sure every year that up to 15% can be used of the hotel occupancy tax can be used for the arts. And that's becoming a more important thing for us as the percentage of the arts, the hotel occupancy tax that goes to the arts, that's growing every year. So that's going to be a huge and very important part of our budget, and why Visit Dallas has become such a good partner with us. And on the state level, we've been a good partner with the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Well, thank you.
Wait,
Yes.
John, a quick question. Is there a preference on the part of the Texans for the Arts to join either in the advocacy, the 501c4 or the 501c3?
No,
Or does it
they
not
would.
matter?
Doesn't matter. Either one is good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you. We will move on then. Jennifer Scripps is going to do a presentation about the WRR procurement that's going on right now. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Joanna. And I really hope in a couple of months we're all in person, but I'm glad to be here with you all today. There's been a lot of chatter over the last few months about an important decision that the OAC embarked on, which was to do a procurement for management of the station. And unfortunately, there's also been a fake news campaign. So the purpose of today is to both give you our rationale. We shared it with the commissioners last Thursday night, and lay the groundwork for a coming recommendation from staff regarding this. Anne-Marie Gann, who is the business manager of the Office of Arts and Culture, has been leading this effort very adroitly in the way she does everything. I'm going to let her brief you on the procurement, and then we're here to answer any questions. I know that many of you are station listeners, many of you are advertisers. We all have a vested interest, just as City of Dallas taxpayers. This is a City of Dallas asset that we steward. So think through, use your, wear lots of different hats, because this is going to be a really high profile move for us. And it is part of our cultural plan under the communications initiative. So Anne-Marie, take it away and I'll be quiet.
As Jennifer said, I'm Anne-Marie Gann. I am the business manager over at the Office of Arts and Culture, and I work with Mike Oakes and his WRR team pretty closely. And I'm gonna share some slides. They're not nearly as beautiful as Jeff's. Radio is not a visual medium. Can you all see the screen? I'm just trying to make sure. Is that sharing now?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is WRR. As you may know, it just celebrated its centennial, 100 years on the air. They were licensed originally in 1921 as Fire Department Communications and became all classical in 1964. Unlike most of the rest of what we do, it's an enterprise fund, which means it generates its own revenues to cover expenses, so it's not supported by taxpayer dollars. Other enterprise funds that you may know about are water and sanitation, where we pay our water bills and our trash bills, as well as aviation. And so the way WRR generates its revenue is it's a commercial radio station with ad spots where sales stuff, it's the one part of the city where you're paid on commission. It's kind of an interesting thing though, because as a government owned commercial radio station, they can't sell all the ad time and ad promotions and personal endorsements, for example, that most commercial radio stations can do because we have city ethics rules. The station, as you may know, has operated out of current Fair Park Studios next to the old Science Place 2 since 1974. And before the pandemic, starting in 1970 something, city council meetings are typically aired 2 meetings a month for about 5 or 6 hours in the middle of the day. So your classical may get interrupted for city council. As you may guess, it's kind of been a challenging time for WRR, and I would say the last few decades have been challenging for radio as an industry. The arts and arts advertising and also competition for the arts marketing dollar has been challenging. So we've had significant net asset declines in this radio fund and operating deficits in 9 of the past 10 years. Take that, and then you add COVID on top of it, and radio listenership. If you think about drive times and how much time we used to spend in the car listening to the radio, that has made radio listenership across the board go down. And then arts advertising, which used to be 25 to 35% of our revenues pre-pandemic, that has been cut more than in half. And we saw it ticking up again, as many of us all did in the fall, and then Omicron hit. So January numbers are not great, unfortunately, nor February. We currently have 1.3% of market share in radio in the DFW area, and about 283,000 weekly audience members. About 59,000 are Black or Hispanic based on self-identification. And so then this is also an interesting thing, right? It's mostly classical, but there also is, as I mentioned, a council resolution from 1978 where they said, hey, you all have to broadcast council agenda meetings on air for the public interest, which made a lot of sense in 1978. There wasn't WebEx, there wasn't Zoom, there wasn't a phone dial-in option. It was really great for access in 1978. In 2019, we did go to City Council and tried to get this taken off air. In any given 15-minute period, there's usually 8,700 listeners in that year. During their morning sessions, that would drop to 400 listeners, and afternoon sessions, it would drop to on average 200. But then because it's all based on sampling and there's this very interesting collection methodology, for 89% of those hours, it was statistically zero. There's literally no one listening. You see, listenership trending, and then Wednesday, second and fourth Wednesdays of the month hit, and the listenership just plummets. To help access, in addition to what WRR does, audio only broadcasts were added to the city's website in January 2019. So if you don't want to take up as much of your bandwidth, you can listen audio only. And then the interesting thing about the pandemic and City Council going to WebEx and hybrid meetings is it actually now allows for a call-in meeting. So you can call on your phone and listen to a City Council meeting in the background if that's what you choose to do. It was also interesting because, as you may know, if you listen to City Council, the sound quality from WebEx, since everybody's using different technology and devices, sound quality is extremely bad and it's not high enough for radio broadcast, so it was unable to be broadcast on the radio. And since that change in 2020, no complaints have come into the station's management or to us about, hey, where's my council meeting on WRR? So we've had no changes. It kind of happened and no one has really said anything. On a pre-pandemic estimate, the radio time maybe costs WR about $80,000 annually in foregone revenues. Really hard to estimate, but that's our best estimate based on pinpointing listenership, based on the value of the ad time that would have been sold during that time. And as I mentioned, staff recommended changing this in 2019. The council rejected it 8-7. It was a very tight vote. And as unfortunately, as Jennifer says, the one item we've taken to council that did not pass. So if it was one item, maybe this is one that we're trying to get a second shot at. So because of all of these factors and these things that have been floating around for a while, our recommendation, our desire is to continue this history of providing free classical to not just listeners in Dallas, but really in an area from Waco all the way up to Oklahoma on WRR 101.1 FM, the same bandwidth with an outside partner managing the station. We also wanted to increase the hours of classical programming by removing the Wednesday mandate for council broadcasts. And this will be 2 separate council actions. As mentioned, services are very challenged, and these radio industry trends are not, no one's saying radio is the stock to get into, or, go buy, iHeartRadio stock because it's going to take off because radio listenership is going to go way up. Plus, government entity, for any of you who have done business with us, it's pretty cumbersome. And we think that could be very well addressed by contracting with a private partner. The example I like to do is Urban Arts Center, which is run by the city of Irving, contracts with WRR for about $40,000 of airtime each year. That has to go, because it's two government entities, has to go before our city council and their city council, which if you imagine how long it takes to go between each city council for what normally could just be an order, and we could accept a $50,000 order and just, get that on air. It's like a 3 to 5 month process, depending on how ornery the attorneys want to be. And then on current state, this procurement has been up since summer of last year. It was up for about 2 months, which is much longer than most normal city procurements of about 2 weeks. And we've been working very hard in negotiating with the bidders. KERA and the Dallas Symphony both bid. And so we can't talk about any specifics because we're governed by state law. But we are nearing final terms for what staff recommendations is. Once announced, the proposed manager will be sharing their vision for programming and operations. So I wish I could share it because we're very excited about it. But like I said, bound by state law, and I don't want to share anyone else's vision ever. For what must happen on the procurement, this is where the absolute must-haves. And thank you to our commission for giving feedback last week. I feel like the cultural plan is so ingrained in me and what we do on a daily basis. I don't always say it out loud. So they reminded us, how does this align with the cultural plan? And so those little footnotes, if you'll notice, A, B, C, D, E, F have been added to align with different priorities in the cultural plan. So on our must-haves, the radio station must continue to operate on 101.1 FM as a classical radio station. And that is continuing communications, continuing providing arts experiences to people in very clear, easy way and connecting communities. We will retain ownership of the license itself, and the proposer will take control of sales and marketing. This is what we believe a more sustainable business model with a good balance of public interest and city control, while also allowing for a great public-private partnership, which is our sustainable arts ecosystem. We also are asking and requiring that locally programmed classical with local kind of like personalities like Amy Bishop and Barry Samsula continue at the same number of or more hours than currently. So by taking City Council off air on Wednesdays, you don't have to turn away from WRR on Wednesdays. You can stay on WRR and keep your classical going for when you're homeschooling your kids or when you're driving to meetings. We're also looking for the partner to continue and expand upon the WRR history of providing services to the arts community. We know it's not just advertising. We know there's beautiful things like Carols in the Arts District and technical assistance helping arts groups record advertisings in a professional grade studio, as well as other kind of promotional items and lots of great partnerships. And we want this to very much be continued. We're also looking for nonprofit type management, which we've had a lot of luck working with our nonprofits locally who have local boards who are responsive to the city and are not big corporate conglomerates who are looking just only on a profit margin, but are really looking to be a mission-driven, mission-based organization that responds to public input. From a sustainable arts ecosystem standpoint, we do want the partner to reimburse the city for all WRR related expenses. We'll have to keep some by FCC regulations since we own the station still, but essentially for the city it would be a net zero. There would not be anything from the general fund that would be flowing into anything else, or we wouldn't have to be asking for subsidies anywhere else. The partner would be supporting all of that. From a desire standpoint, we would like for the station operations to continue in Fair Park. There's a great Fair Park studio. We want to be a part of investing in and continuing to build up Fair Park in South Dallas. And then we said propose. So all of these constraints show us what you'll do and then tell us what other financial benefit we get from the city, whether it's a revenue share, a percentage split, granting promotional spots, you tell us. And that was part of the consideration that the evaluation committee considered. And so I might stop there. Are there any questions on this one in particular? Because I know there's been a lot of chatter around what this procurement is and what this procurement may not be. Sorry if there's anyone in chat. I haven't seen anyone.
Please feel free to unmute, use the chat function, or you can raise your hand as well on the raise your hand tool.
well, I just have one more slide, so I can just keep going, and then we can have time for people to mull, because it's a lot. This is something we've been living with, but for many of you, this may be the first time you're hearing or seeing this. Our next steps, many of you may know about the Arts Endowment. That was another City Council resolution where 20% of the net profits from WRR each year would go to the Arts Endowment, which is funding now Alana arts organizations and artists. That resolution is to remain in place. Nothing's changing there. And if many of you remember our 2020 Culture of Value COVID Relief Micro Grants for $3,000, which were very successful, and we attracted a lot of new artists to come work with OAC. That's the funding source. It was partly from WRR, historical profits. Now we want to get input from you all. Like, what do you think about if you're a current advertiser? What are you concerned about? What are you excited about? If you're broadcast, or even if you're not interacting frequently with WRR, what are your thoughts about this proposal, as well as the City Council agenda broadcast proposal? And then finally, after, we'll keep kind of hitting the road and asking people what they think and getting public input. We'll have a session on this, on the new management partner who will be named and can share a lot more details of what they're excited about, what their vision is. We're working on scheduling that for either late February or early March, and that will be likely a hybrid meeting. So if my spot falls through, Joanna, I might be coming to Salmons and doing a hybrid meeting from Salmons.
Sure, that'd be great. I'd like to add some historical perspective here. I served as the president of the Friends of WRR more than 10 years ago, and there was an amazing opportunity brought forward at that time. It would have been a frequency swap, which would have moved the listening audience more to the north, which according to the data is really where it is. So it was a $50 million offer. The city would have retained ownership, but $50 million just to do a frequency swap. And then at the same time, there was a consideration of an LMA agreement for KERA to take it over and operate it professionally. At that time, it was also losing money. It has historically, in most years, lost money. Every year, every time when the council changes, there's less and less support for WRR. So there's always been a concern that eventually, if it loses enough money, the city would just sell it. But the $50 million would have been put in an endowment for the arts. Now think about that right now. During COVID, if we'd had a $50 million endowment, that we could have used that money to keep the arts flowing and really help get everybody over the hump here. That never even got to the council back then. A panel of 4 experts in the radio and media were brought in to evaluate it. They were all unanimous that that was something the city should do. But there was a very vocal minority of some people mostly in Highland Park who have a kind of a knee-jerk reaction every time anyone mentions any slight change to WRR. And they very effectively went to council members and city leaders and so on and mounted a campaign to say, no, you can't do this, it'll ruin the station. And all that was going to change was its location on the dial and the fact that we would have had $50 million, and then possibly that KERA would have taken over the management, but it never even got consideration. So, that was in my opinion at the time, a missed opportunity for the city. And it would have guaranteed that the council at that time was not going to sell it. And if you remember, we were going into a recession back then. So I just wanted to offer that as a historical perspective, that every time there is any consideration of a change to WRR, there's for some reason it causes certain people in our community to have a lot of consternation about it. And having said that, I will just see if anyone else has questions or comments or anything else to say about it.
I got a very good question in the chat about what role the manager can play. I think it's important to recognize that right now our staff at WRR are city employees. No radio station in America is paying a city pension or the internal charges that the city charges for IT, phones. It's heavily burdened with city overhead. And then they can't sell certain products. The best example are when you hear a on-air announcer talking about rug cleaning. And I personally tried it out and my rugs have never looked better. As city employees, we cannot accept gifts. So all of those, that entire category of travel, promotion, high-end home services cannot be sold via government. And we have tried, I assure you. So there are huge opportunities for a different revenue model that people who actually do radio management can get. With respect to programming, it must be classical programming, but we had a really good conversation at commission that I did want to say there are lots of opportunities for a local nonprofit to infuse their programming with a new, fresh twist on classical programming, and to take that as a launching pad to local arts, but in that classical or music vein. There used to be a popular jazz show on WRR. I don't think anybody would balk at that. So I did want to speak directly to those. I also got I'm seeing Nancy's question about Highland Park. You would not believe with the beautiful thing of Facebook and a fake news campaign with a mailing list of membership, what is possible. And Dallas has a long history of non-city residents, and it is Highland Park, but you would not believe how many people who live outside of Dallas last summer were on an email bonanza during like the day after council inauguration, emailing, I'm from, a small town and there's no other way I can hear classical music. And the city's trying to sell the station in X classical radio, when in fact, it was none of the above. It was a complete fake news campaign. So I can't underscore that enough, that it is a lot of external voices, and we as Dallas supported arts stand the most to lose, because if the station continues to bleed money, and mind you, they've been in the red 9 out of 10 years, the city will not bail out an enterprise fund. I think they're forbidden to use general fund to do so. And the station would be sold. And I can guarantee you that when it goes to the highest bidder, there's no strings tied to it for classical music. And people can say that I'm being hysterical too, and that's, doomsday scenario. Well, here we are 2 years into a pandemic and nobody expected ad revenues to have been depressed for this long. So I think we need to get really serious about finding a sustainable path if we want to save classical music on this station. So if there's other questions, I can't thank Anne-Marie enough for the briefing, and Joanna's background information, as always, is the institutional knowledge. But I think it's really, really, really important to recognize how hard change is. And that this one, I will never forget in 2019 when that item lost 8-7. It is highly passionate. It's informed by passion sometimes when you tell people that the listenership is statistically 0 and it's costing the city $80,000, and they, wonderful council members that they are, vote to keep doing that. That's what we're up against. And so keep that in mind as we lobby and advocate for even bigger changes. So with that, I'll be quiet. Are there any more questions? Okay, Joanna, thank you again for the time, and y'all reach out if you hear other things.
I would just ask those of you, if you have relationships with city council members, to let them know that, the arts community, just let them know your opinion on this, that, we want WRR to survive and thrive. And, we just need to separate out the fake news from what's really on the table here, which is beefing up actually with professional management, a wonderful city asset that we could very easily lose if it continues to lose money the way it has. All right, thank you, Jennifer. So we're going to move on. Hector Garcia is going to talk about the elevator project. I think we have a few more days for people to apply for that, so I'm going to turn it over to Hector.
Thank you. And I'm glad to see some faces that are familiar with elevator project, and I am not sure that all of you are. So I'm going to do just a quick presentation here and share some slides with you very quickly. And I'm assuming you can see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Elevator project is on right now, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. But it is an application process where folks have to apply online. We've been at it for over 2 weeks, and so I feel that a lot of interesting phone calls and emails. But it does close at noon on Friday. So I'm here to urge you, if you're interested in applying, or if you have friends who are in the arts community who can apply, this is a great way to go. I'll tell you very quick high points about it, and then I'll leave you some information. This is being recorded, so you can always go back to it. The really great thing about Elevator Project, one of the great things about it, is that both an individual artist and an organization can apply. So if you are like a playwright and you've got a wonderful play that you need to put up, this is a way you can go. An organization can be tax exempt or not. So just if you are an organization in Dallas, but you haven't yet gone through your tax exempt status or don't want to, you can apply. You are allowed to apply. There is a prohibition of anything outside of Dallas. So you must be a Dallas only artist or organization. You must have an honest, real address in Dallas, not just a post office box. I'll tell you a little bit about the process in a second, but we do look for emerging voices or historically marginalized communities, people who are speaking out and are addressing the needs of all of Dallas. The Elevator Project does provide a venue in the Arts District, and usually one of the smaller venues of the AT&T Performing Arts Center. So it's like Hammond Hall and the sixth floor studio theater in the Wiley. Those are the main ones, but we've had some in other places. We do encourage people to consider other places, and I'll show you some in a minute. We do feel that it's really important that it represents the diversity of the city. I have this show up just for a reason, because Prism came to Elevator Project about 2 years ago with the same idea. And the truth is, at that point, it was very fluffy. You know, it was just very not pulled together. And it didn't really make the cut. But they worked on it some more, and they came back with a fantastic show. I have to tell you, fantastic. It was in the Wiley and the Potter Rose, the main stage. And we had families, we had kids of all ages holding up signs, wearing masks, and they really tapped into the whole luchadora community in Dallas and got professional help and training. It was a fantastic show. I cannot say enough good things about it. Elevator Project does accept dance, music, new media, spoken word, theater productions, you know, any combination of the above, and usually it is a combination of some things. You'll see here a play by Cry Havoc Theater, Sex Ed in Hammond Hall, and Pastry King, which was an individual artist, Scott Zenreich, brought us this really wonderful play, which we did in the 6th floor studio apartment. We do encourage people to consider other locations or do interesting things with the existing venues. So here you have Elemental by Adam Adolfo was done out on our reflecting pool, we've done a reflecting pool. And in this past season, we had another show out there. And you can see where there's like a spider web hanging from the ceiling in Hammond Hall for Teatro Flor Candela's production. The representation and the pulling together of a season happens in 3 levels, basically. There's a quick internal review level, which is what I do. I read all of the applications. I have the honor of being the first to do so, and sometimes they blow me away. And I always come away feeling like our arts community is so blessed with so much talent in Dallas, so much imagination. And I love that they're trying to get their work out. But after me, it goes to a panel of 5 arts people, arts executives or arts, people who have excelled in the arts community in Dallas, basically. And we try to find representation on that panel from all the different genres, from dance, music, theater, spoken word, and also make sure that the panel itself is diverse and is looking at all the communities in Dallas. After it gets done with that level of review, the advisory review panel of 5, they usually pick 8. We're not bound to that, but usually about 8. And then they pick some backups, 4, 5, or 6, in case one of the 8s can't make it. But at that point, our programming department gets involved and we start talking to the groups to see what is it really that they want to do, and whether we can really do it. Usually we can work something out. But the group, I want to say that this is not a grant program, and that's one of the most often asked questions, like, how does the grant work, or how much is the grant? But this is really a program to help you produce your work. We will present it with you, but you are the producer. And so there are some guaranteed minimums in the contract. There's a tech buyout as well. You would have additional proceeds from ticket sales if you do the show right. And if there's any merchandise to sell, that you get 100% of that we don't want to get involved in your merchandise, so you get 100%. But what's really great about it is that it's really a mentoring process. For a year, you get to have access to our marketing and public relations department, and we will support all of the marketing and PR that you are already doing. And we will come up with additional things. And that's both traditional and social media. We will support you with ticketing. Our ticketing department will take care of it for you, and we will work with you to make sure that you get all the reports that you need, and tell you how the shows are going and how they're selling. And you can have any amount of reports that you could possibly want. You would also get involved with using our equipment, which I have to say is really wonderful. It's high tech AV equipment of all kinds, and you'll have a production manager that will work with your show, and that person will help you figure out problems. So if there are things in the room, or whatever needs to happen, it can happen. You do get the advantage of using one of our beautiful venues, and you get complete front of house support. We provide the ushers, the ticket takers, all of that is ours. The parking and the security, all of that is arranged for you. We want you to concentrate on your art. So the application is online, and if you want information on this project, there are two pages on our website, and I have it up at the top on the right there, atpac.org/about/elevator project. I love these 2 pictures because the one on the right, the mixed emotas, she's just reaching for the stars, and that's what I would want for all of you to do. The one that is Verdigris Ensemble is one of those places where it's sort of miraculous. A production manager working with Verdigris Ensemble, Sam Bruckman, who runs Verdigris, said he really wanted some sand for this show. And the production manager was like, you really need to rethink how we're going to do this. And, it was just kind of put on hold for a while. And all of a sudden we got the advanced work that we had to do for one of the Broadway tours that was coming through. And that was Once on This Island. And guess what they needed? Sand on the stage. They don't travel with sand. So we got the sand for Once on This Island, and then we're able to repurpose it for Dust Bowl. And anybody who saw that show will tell you it was wonderful. So dream your dreams, make that magic happen, because this could be you in Hammond Hall. Don't hang yourself between now and Friday. Just do it. Let yourself fly, and apply today. This is where you need to apply. I'm going to leave it up for a little bit, but knowing that this is going to be recorded, I think that all of you will be able to get access to it. That email address that is up there, elevatorproject@atpac.org, is a dedicated email, and it comes into my inbox. And so I will see that immediately. It's the easiest thing to remember. That phone number that you see, the 214-978-2840, is my landline at work. It is forwarded to my cell phone, so you'll have access to me almost anytime. we do have to say that we are thrilled to have the generous support of the City of Dallas Office of Arts and Culture. And I'm glad that Jennifer and Anne-Marie were here because we work with them so closely and they are a really terrific partner. So please apply, and that is all I have for you today. Are there any questions?
Hector, I've got a couple questions, so I'll just call you after we're done and ask you offline.
That's just fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have a question for Hector? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
You think of
Thanks,
something?
Hector.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute. Diana, did
Sorry,
you
quick
have a question?
What are the general timelines for this year is due on Friday? When is the next application period open and when will the projects take place?
So the next application period will likely, it hasn't been totally decided, but it will likely be the same as this year, January. So we usually start like right after the new year and go for about 3 weeks. And between the paneling and the levels of review and all that, we know by mid-spring kind of what it is. And then that's when we start talking to the yes choices, right? And I would normally send the letter to the no people immediately so that they know that that is not going to happen and they can go in a different direction. But with the yes people, we begin working with them and negotiating the contract. The season runs basically concurrent with our fiscal year of the center, which is admittedly a little bit odd. So the people that are applying now would have to start from August 1 of 2022 and complete before July 31st of 2023. So that's the fiscal year that we work in.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you, Diana.
Okay. I see we're got just a few minutes left here. So I am going to move on to arts advocacy or to Dallas Arts Month planning, which is just kind of in the early stages here. We're all very hopeful, of course, that we can actually have Arts Month as we have always known it, COVID permitting. So up on the calendar, or up on the screen, you'll see the kind of the initial calendar that shows some of the primary events. The press conference kickoff will be the 30th of March at 9:30 a.m. at the Majestic, celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the Majestic Theater, the Centennial. And then we have, some of the regular events that we've always had: the Deep Ellum Arts Festival, the Dallas Art Fair. One that's important to all of us, of course, it's Arts Advocacy Day on the 26th. That's a Tuesday, and that will be at the Latino Cultural Center. And so, we're still working out details on all of that. Obviously, the block party for Dallas Arts District at the end of the month, 29th, 30th, 31st. And of course, Easter falls right in the middle of all of that. The creative conversation will be at the Moody, and that is on the 4th on a Monday. So some of the same things that we've always seen in the past, but hopefully a lot more to fill the calendar. And I think the main thing I wanted to convey today is that if you have events happening in April, make sure you got them listed on Art and Seek, because that's how we populate the city, the Office of Cultural Affairs calendar, and that's how we pull the events into the Arts Month calendar. So make sure you're getting your events loaded up there, and if you need any information about how to do that, let me know, and I can put you in touch with the people at KERA that can help you with that. So, we should have more hard information about more of the things that will be happening during Arts Month next April, or this coming April, soon, but I just wanted to get it on the radar. And also that Dallas Arts Advocacy Day will happen this year. Obviously we were able to do it this past year, and we want to try and continue and go back to what we were doing. We haven't selected a keynote speaker yet. We're still working on that, and we will have a meeting of the DACAC steering committee in the next few weeks to figure out who will be doing, or who will get the Jack Alder Advocacy Award. I see something in the chat from Charles. Yeah, we haven't updated the calendar yet, Charles. Hopefully we will get that on there for the next one. But we have obviously a lot of things going on in April. So keep in mind as you're planning your spring season that we're really hoping to have a really robust arts month again this year. So any questions or discussion on that? Also, if anyone has suggestions for keynote speaker or a topic that we should be talking about for Arts Advocacy Day, please get in touch with me or let me know, and we will follow up and look into it. And then before we run out of time here, I want to ask Chris Heinbaugh to talk about a great opportunity for a free video series on performance to virtual about doing virtual programming. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Hi there. You switched it just when my printer kicked in, so hopefully it's not too noisy. Yeah, I think a lot of you may know from our leadership directory and stuff, but the center works to provide a lot of services and support for arts organizations. And we have created a place on our website for arts organizations to go. And we recently did a series of videos with Video Station, Bart Weiss over at the Video Station of Dallas. And these in particular were created to help organizations kind of take their productions, take their work, take their marketing from performance to actual virtual. We saw a lot of organizations do that during the pandemic. And what everyone realized is that they were able to get their work out to a much broader audience in many ways. And sometimes it was a performance, sometimes it was like a podcast or some different things, interviews with someone about a show to help market a show. And what we were realizing is that a lot of the groups who had done this realized that even though you can't beat a live in-person performance, this would end up still being part of what they do moving forward. And so what we did was work with Bart to create a series of videos that would kind of help get people started. It's not a complete how-to, but it's got a lot of things in there. And the whole idea was to do it so that it would be cheap and that it would be easy to do, stuff you could do with your iPhone if you were shooting video. Everything was designed with a budget, really low cost in mind, with this good a quality. And there, with each of these videos, there's also a PDF that talks about where to get equipment, how to do things, stuff like that. Bart did a great job on these. The first in the series is about just talking with some local arts leaders, Cry Havoc, Teatro Dallas, Theater 3, Bruce Wood, a whole bunch of groups that actually made the leap and did it, and how that worked for them and what kind of prompted them to do it. Then there are 3 videos that are in there, and the first 3 are about video production, but then the last 2 are focused on podcasts and how you might want to create your own podcast and do that, and how to market it and all those kind of things. So they're all in there. These are all free, and I would encourage you to take a look at them. I would spread the word to your staff, your artists, and everything. All the stuff inside our supporting arts page is free for any of our folks to use. All we do is ask you to sign in, and that way we can also keep you updated if there are new materials or new services that we're offering. And feel free to also email us if there are things that you would like to see us do. And I'm going to put the link in the chat for you all. But there's the artist directory that we talked about. There's the OAC Rush tickets, which I think a lot of you take advantage of, which are like $25 or less, last minute tickets at any of the participating center shows, or those of our resident companies, or Titus, or any of the groups where we are doing the ticketing for Ticket DFW, where we're actually manning the box office. Those also are eligible. So it's a great opportunity to see shows very affordably. There's a bunch of other things, but please check it out. And any feedback is great. And again, if you have ideas of things that maybe we can help with, I know we've had some people mention, could we create a kind of a general press list that everyone could utilize, and you know, to send out their press releases and stuff like that. So if those are things that would interest you, let us know and we can work on them and see what we can come up with. So let me know if you got any questions, but thank you all.
Thanks, Chris. Does anyone have a question for Chris about that?
Yes, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Teresa. I'm driving. I'm sorry. I can't turn my video on. Chris,
Right.
so when you say us, do you mean the AT&T Performing Arts Center? Who's offering the service?
Well, the center has put the services together, and it's on some of these services, a lot of these are on our website. So for instance, it's got information about Elevator Project, the Moody Fund, but it's also got information on Ticket DFW. A bunch of you use the Center for Low Cost Ticketing. So that's in there. There's the Rush tickets. There's the video series I was just talking about. There's the leadership directory that we all did late last year. So those are all things that we put together. These are supported by the Office of Arts and Culture. So we make these available to our arts community free.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I was particularly interested in the video series.
The video series, we commissioned Art to put those together. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? Okay, I don't want to keep you much longer, but I did want to very quickly, it's in my understanding that UT Southwest, the modelers over there, have basically said that we passed the peak for Omicron COVID cases last week. And the numbers that Dallas County is putting out do bear that out. I just checked a little while ago. They haven't updated their numbers since yesterday, but they're about half what they were last week. Today, they're 3,345. That actually is the number from yesterday. So hopefully they're even less. So I just, that's all good news, I think, for all of us in the arts who are wanting to, get our season started, and for the museums to, get people back in to see the exhibits. So I just wondered if anyone else had any information or anything they wanted to share related to the challenges we're facing with the current COVID caseload. Not seeing anything, any questions, so. Well, I'll keep monitoring that, and we'll just keep hoping that those cases go down as quickly as they went up, and so that we can all get back to our business of producing art. So thank you, everybody. It was great to see you. I hope to see you next month at our next meeting. And if anyone needs information about anything we discussed today, please get in touch with me.
I do have something real quick. A lot of people, I think groups got a note from Visit Dallas encouraging support for the convention center. I did reach out to Craig Davis at the Visit Dallas office and suggested that maybe they put together a briefing, because it's not just support for the center, for the convention center, it also ends up affecting the hotel occupancy tax. It's something that's going to have to go to the voters. And I just felt like if they're asking for the support of the arts community, that they lay out kind of what it is that they're asking. And because I know a bunch of us have kind of asked about
Chris,
that. And
that's
they were
going to
great.
That's going to be the topic of the creative conversation too.
Okay, yeah. And they're more than happy to brief us in terms of just what they're asking for, in terms of support for the council. So, but yeah, Jennifer's right. They're going to have that in there. So that'll be a good piece of information. Thanks.
Okay. Well, I will let you all go. Thank you. And everyone stay safe. Bye-bye.